There we go. Thank you, Michelle. Tonight, this is the Soundview Gateway Sidewalk Project informational session of October 22nd, hosted by the Community Connectivity Grant Committee. And we're going to start with our first selectman, Tim Griswold.
Well, welcome to the meeting. We look forward to giving a lot of information to the public and also to have a question and answer period at the end. I think as we go to the next slide, we can see what we'll be accomplishing tonight, and we will be discussing the project, the purpose and the development, the design and project status, and there'll be, as I say, a session for public comment and feedback. The committee has been working very hard, and Mary Jo Nozel is the chairwoman and secretary of the committee. Jim Lampos, who is a Soundview resident, is a member. Eric Olson, Frank Pappalardo, who is also a Soundview resident. Bonnie Reemsnyder, our former first select woman. I am a member ex officio. So this group, while it is small, it is powerful, and it has done a remarkable job along with BSC, our consulting engineers. So the next slide will give us an overview here. The Gateway Connectivity Project is a vital element of the town of Olyme, ongoing effort to improve pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety in the Soundview Beach and Shore Road Route 156 area. The project leverages previous investments in the area to provide greater impact and set the stage for future additional improvements. I think tonight you will see in great detail how this sidewalk project will integrate with what we have already done. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mary Jo Nozel, and she will carry on from there. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tim. I'm actually going to do a little housekeeping real quick. I want to also introduce Michelle Noren, and Michelle is our host there, managing technology. She is the senior manager administration for Tim's office at Town Hall. As Tim mentioned, we're going to have a little informational session first, followed by a question and comment forum at the end. This is 90 minutes. It's being recorded on WebEx due to the coronavirus. And then everyone can watch it at their leisure. It'll be on the website and on the YouTube channel. And if you have any questions after the meeting, the final slide will have a way of indicate how you can get a hold of us, but of course you can just go to the website. Everyone will be muted until the question and answer session. And at this point, I want to talk, Frank and I are going to talk about the history and some background information. And as you can see from this slide, these are the major milestones in the planning process for the improvements in the Soundview Gateway area. Go ahead, Frank.
Well, this is a continuation of the town's commitment, really, to what we started several years ago with the Lower Hartford Avenue improvements with the sidewalks down there and the tree plantings and the streetscaping. So it's part of the town's commitment to integrate and create a holistic approach to the Soundview area and make improvements as necessary and will be appropriate for the area. I think you'll be impressed as you see the package that will be presented this evening. One thing I will mention that although you're going to see the complete design that has been presented by the engineers and approved by the committee, our current budget funding may not be adequate to handle the entire approach. But the town, once again, as part of the commitment, is aggressively looking for additional funding, and that will look well for us because we are ahead of most other towns in terms of how we are approach this particular project. So we will be aggressively pursuing additional grant funding for the project completion, which whatever we don't do, and additional improvements in the Soundview area.
Thank you, Frank. And I just want to acknowledge the people that have worked really hard on this. Oh, you can see we have a lot of milestones to be proud of over the last 10 years in Soundview. So Frank, as chair of the Soundview Commission, and his folks that work with him have a lot of responsibility and worked very hard to get us where we are today. Bonnie also worked very closely with them in applying for the grants that led us to where we are today. So I thank her. And as you will note, in today's topic, again, is just on the community connectivity grant sidewalk project. We aren't talking about anything else specific to Soundview, but I think it's good to note all the streetscape improvements that came out of that master plan. The next slide, please. And this is, again, sort of advancing what we just talked about, but primarily the goals of this project are pedestrian safety improvements in the gateway area. The project begins where the other project left off, Bocce Lane and Hartford Avenue on the west side, providing a safe pedestrian link from the beach area to the other part of the gateway, which is Shore Road or the business section. And obviously, from all the studies that the Soundview Commission did and some of the other work we did, we know that this will help with the economic vitality of the Soundview area, as well as providing safe access for pedestrians and bicyclists, multi transportation opportunities, safety not only for pedestrians, but turning the corner at Hartford Avenue and Shore Road. Any other comments from the committee on this?
No, we talked about goals. Is this slide 6, Mary Jo?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, so one of the things that we should make really clear that the grant that we applied for and were awarded is specific to safety improvements and connectivity improvements. The funding for this grant cannot be used for any other purpose, and there is a 3-year timeline on the use of the funding. So we're well into that 3-year period. So once again, the grant money is provided by the state, and it is for the specific use of sidewalks and pedestrian access and safety improvements. I think that's very important to note at this point in time.
Right. And I think because this is part of the public informational outreach portion or requirement, this is a good time to mention what we've done to date. As Frank mentioned, we're well into the 3-year period. What I think is good for people to know is that he and Bonnie applied for the first round of state funding for the Connecticut Connectivity Grant. So the first time the state ever did this, and we received the maximum construction grant of $400,000 as a result, because we had a shovel-ready project due to the master planning. So as part of this project, the public involvement to date have been all our Soundview committee, the Connectivity Grant Committee meetings and minutes. It's been on the town website. Prior to COVID, we actually walked the project. We had some members in the media there. I think, Kate, you were there for that. There have been several newspaper articles. Informational letters have gone out to the abutters. We've had in-person meetings with many of the abutters. To date, the committee has had 38 meetings since we started, which is pretty impressive since we first met in April of 2019. So we've really been meeting on average of twice a month. So this tonight is another part of that public outreach. And it's something we really take seriously, but given COVID, we're trying it this way. So the nice thing is it'll be available for others, but I mean, normally we would have met more often, I believe, at the project site. It's just not safe to do so right now.
I think that we should also point out that in addition to the 38-minute meetings that this committee has had, this project has been discussed at length at almost every selectmen's meeting over the last couple of years and every Soundview Commission meeting. So updates have been provided during selectmen's meetings and Soundview Commission meetings. And so those meeting minutes on all of those are on the town website under the respective board or commission or committee. And as I said earlier, the DOT has responded back to us, and the DOT, since they're pretty much the grant providers here, they have told us that we are far ahead of most of the other recipients of the grant, and that will bode very well for future funding requests as we go forward.
Thank you, Frank. Any other comments from the project team? Okay, next slide, please. I'm going to introduce at this point our project manager for the project. One of the bullets we shared, one of our highlights, the project team went through a request for proposal process, an interview process, and through that process, we hired BSC Group. BSC is out of Glastonbury, and we're lucky to have Kurt Procharena, who's the vice president of the firm and our project manager, join us tonight. He and his company worked on the lower part of Hartford Avenue, which was very successful. But Kurt's firm was hired to do the designing, engineering part of the project, which is a town responsibility. So I'm very honored and pleased to have Kurt working with us. Kurt?
Thank you very much, Mary Jo. Good evening, everybody. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. This is a great project, and I'm glad to be able to present some details on it. So the project is essentially divided into two major segments, Hartford Avenue and Shore Road. As Frank mentioned, based on the funding, not the entirety of Shore Road may be completed. We're going to see where the budget indicators are at the time we go out to bid. And we'll talk about some of the budget numbers a bit later on. But a quick overview of what the project essentially entails. On Hartford Avenue, it's a new sidewalk, approximately 970 feet in length. It's going to be only on the west side of the road, one side of the road. And that sidewalk will extend from Bocce Lane north to Shore Road, Route 156. On Shore Road, the current design, and as was indicated earlier, the design will be completed. So those portions that may not get constructed due to the current funding limitations will essentially be shovel ready and therefore quite eligible, we hope, for future grant opportunities. So the sidewalk on Shore Road is about 1,300 feet as designed, and it extends between Old Colony Road and Cross Lane. It essentially ends at the police station. Similar to Hartford Avenue, the sidewalk is proposed for one side of the road, and that's the north side of the road. And in both cases, the sidewalks are intended to create safe pedestrian access. Clearly, it's not safe to have folks walking in the road on Hartford Avenue. The town has sufficient right-of-way to install the sidewalk. And similarly, Route 156, being a much higher speed road, there's even more concern with pedestrians, particularly in the summer months, with no real facilities where they can safely traverse that area. So that's really a large intent of this project, safety of pedestrians. Both segments, Hartford Avenue and Shore Road, will be comprised of what we consider a standard 5-foot sidewalk. and that's based on Connecticut Department of Transportation standards, as well as Town of Old Lyme standards, very common in the state of Connecticut. Everybody has probably seen what we call the typical 5-foot concrete sidewalk. That's the standard that we're using. A quick update on where we are in the project. As Mary Jo mentioned, things have been ongoing for quite a while. This project, essentially on the design side, was comprised of 4 phases. We did very comprehensive mapping of both areas to establish what the existing conditions were. And that included both the physical conditions out there, where property lines were, rights-of-way lines were critical, of course. Once that mapping was developed, BSC worked very closely with the committee to develop a preliminary design. That preliminary design was reviewed, went through various iterations until a final preliminary design was accepted. That preliminary design was sent to Connecticut DOT for review, particularly for this segment on Shore Road, because that is a state road and they maintain 100% control over anything that happens on the state road. Once the preliminary design was accepted, the design moved ahead into final design. Final design is pretty much complete at this stage as of tonight. There's a few minor refinements that we need to make to the project as we move into what's called the construction documents phase. The construction documents will be used by the town to solicit competitive bids to contractors, which is anticipated to happen over the next month or so, with an anticipated start of construction in the spring. As was mentioned earlier, the project is well ahead of many other towns that have received connectivity grants and is in very good shape and essentially on schedule for what had been discussed at the outset. Just a couple of graphics to show the limits of the project, and I understand and apologize, these may be a little difficult to see remotely. If we were in person, we would have these on large screens, but we'll do the best we can here. So this view is of Hartford Avenue. North is on the left side of the sheet. The left side of the sheet also is where Shore Road is located. On the right-hand side of the sheet, you can see a red line with an arrow. That's essentially where the project starts on Hartford Avenue at Bocce Lane. The sidewalk will be on this side of the road, if you can see my pointer, and extend up and come around the corner and end on Shore Road. This slide is Shore Road. It splits the project area into the 2 areas, top and bottom. The red line at the top is at Cross Lane, where our project begins. And if you recall, there's an existing sidewalk that extends up Cross Lane. The intent is to create a connection at that point. The sidewalk will be located, as I mentioned earlier, on the north side of Shore Road and extend to Old Colony Road. As I'll show you in a minute, we are creating a connection at Hartford Avenue where there's existing crosswalks now. We're going to improve the safety of that intersection with the new sidewalks. So these are the design plans. There's 4 sheets I'll move through, and I apologize that, again, on the screen, there's a lot of information on these sheets, but what these are literally the actual construction documents that will ultimately be compiled with many other materials that have been prepared that include standard cross sections, construction notes, lots and lots of specific details that are intended to define exactly how the project should be constructed by a contractor. The full package, when it's completed, will be linked up with what's called a project manual, which is essentially a book that defines additional detailing. There's technical specifications, contractual items that go in that book. The project manual, coupled with these plans, are collectively called the construction documents that I mentioned earlier. That full package will be sent to the Connecticut DOT for a final review. Once DOT reviews and approves the entire package, then the town can put the project out to bid. So this first sheet here is Shore Road. Again, if you can see my pointer, cross lane. We're creating a new crosswalk connection to connect to the existing sidewalk. The sidewalk is located on the north side of the road, and it's a bit hard to see, but there are various ramps at the end of the sidewalk where it traverses certain key points, various driveways, entrances, etc. ADA compliance is a critical part of the project. It's a requirement of the project through DOT as well as federal highway regulations. So handicapped accessibility is a very critical part of the design that does affect and inform various parts of the design. A typical road crossing, where I'm circling now at Cottage Lane, again, crosswalk. At the various crossings, Cottage Lane, Portland Avenue, Hartford Avenue Extension, we're modifying the existing stop bars and stop signs, again, with safety in mind, making sure that there's good sight lines for drivers that are going into and out of those cross streets at the intersection with Shore Road, and to make sure that pedestrians are very visible to drivers as they approach those intersections. Again, this project is really all about pedestrian safety. On the bottom of the sheet, Portland Avenue Extension, again, a similar configuration. In some areas of the project, we have modified the alignment of the sidewalk to make sure that we're avoiding existing utility poles and the like. We're essentially maintaining a grass strip between the edge of the road and the sidewalk, and that's called a buffer. That buffer is intended to accommodate things like mailboxes, existing roadway signs, as well as serve as a location for some snow storage and those kinds of things to make sure that the sidewalk is set back from the edge of the road. It's a good buffer as pedestrians use it to separate them from traffic, especially on a road like Shore Road, where the vehicular speeds tend to be a little bit higher. As I mentioned, at the intersection with Hartford Avenue, we're putting in a new crosswalk, and you can see where the sidewalk just comes around the corner, and that'll be a little bit better visible on the next sheet. As we continue down, just a continuation of the project. You can see the sidewalk here. Some of the islands at some of the existing businesses are being reconstructed, and that's to improve the safety of vehicles moving in and out of those businesses. And they really represent enhancements. A lot of the curbing out there is very old, deteriorated. We're essentially redoing some of these islands to create a cleaner, more linear, and a more aligned look between those islands. So it is all about safety, but the project will benefit with some aesthetic enhancements also. Again, a typical crossing at Swan Avenue with a new crosswalk and a reconfigured stop sign and stop bar. As the sidewalk continues down past the large grassed area, that's the town property, we approach Old Colony Road. It crosses Old Colony Road and ends with a landing on the other side of the road. And again, the design on Shore Road will be 100% completed, but depending on the funding, we will determine which segments of this part of the project get constructed. So transitioning to Hartford Avenue, in this particular case, we're starting up at Shore Road. The sidewalk comes around the corner, and as was mentioned, we're realigning some of these curb lines, and that's again to promote vehicular safety, in particular to try to promote a reduced speed as people turn into Hartford Avenue while still maintaining safe access for larger vehicles, delivery trucks, and very important fire trucks and the like. Here's the sidewalk located on the west side of the road. You can see some of the existing entrances. Again, similar to what I mentioned on Shore Road, islands are remaining in the same locations, but some minor enhancement work taking place for both safety and the benefits of some aesthetics. As the project crosses various driveways, those driveways will remain. Those locations are not being modified, but they are being enhanced. So each driveway will get a new curb cut. The driveways have been configured to a uniform size. They'll get new aprons. And in some limited cases, again, I apologize, it's difficult to see on this sheet, there's a little bit of work being conducted on the driveways at some of the residents. The reason that's required is to make sure that as part of the sidewalk construction, we're not creating any sort of change in the grade and having a negative impact on someone's driveway. Hartford Avenue has some very interesting grading changes on it. So we're going to try to address some of those as part of the project and in a sense, really enhance some of the driveways out there from what their current configuration is. And that's really both going to serve as a functional enhancement of some of those driveways and also an aesthetic enhancement. Here's the lower part of the project continuing. Here's the sidewalk. As you can see, the driveway locations. Essentially, the sidewalk on Hartford Avenue is a straight line. There's no utility poles on this side of the road. So the sidewalk will continue in a very, very straight line down to its terminus at Bocce Lane. A new crosswalk will be installed at Bocce Lane, which will link to the existing sidewalk, as was mentioned earlier, that was constructed as part of the other Sound View enhancements project. Just a quick, simple rendering. As was indicated earlier, through the preliminary design phase, there were many, many meetings and discussions, sketches, draft plans, and renderings like this put together. A picture speaks 1,000 words. So these renderings served as valuable design tools where various configurations were evaluated, considered. Lots of discussions took place relative to various configurations and the benefits or drawbacks of those configurations. So ultimately, what this graphic depicts is the final design configuration with the grass buffer, similar to what I indicated on Shore Road, a 5-foot sidewalk, and then essentially grass infill at the backside. You can see in this case, the existing fire hydrant. We know Connecticut Water is in the process of pretty close to wrapping up their project out there. Those facilities are going to be in before our sidewalk goes in. None of their facilities will be moved or relocated as part of the project. So this is a great picture of what the project will look like. And I think it will represent an enhancement to the area. You can see at the lower part of the picture, one of the new driveway aprons, which will really clean up some of the varying and some deteriorated aprons that are out there currently. Now I'll turn it over to Mary Jo to talk about project finances.
Thank you. This is my favorite part. The project, we were really lucky to get, as I mentioned earlier, we received the maximum amount of construction grant allotted under this initial funding for the program, which was $400,000 for construction. And the other things that come out of that $400,000 that are grant eligible are the construction on Hartford Avenue, which again, this is an estimate, and we think it's a conservative amount. So the enhancements on Hartford Avenue are estimated at $287,000. There are ancillary construction services to support what happens during the construction project. That is estimated at $15,000, also part of the grant. So again, this is not costing the town anything. And then everything needs a contingency just in case. And the state allows us to have up to 10% for contingency. When you put the contingency over our estimated construction costs, that would be $35,000, which leaves us $63,000, which the committee had determined that we're going to go as far as we can at this project with the $400,000 that we've been awarded. So we will be going out to bid, and we're hoping to get a really good bid. And if we get a bid that allows us to do as much on Shore Road as we can, that's what we plan to do. So the committee will have some decisions to make with the remaining monies available for Shore Road. And again, it will be based on the competitive bid process. Along with the grant eligible costs, there's town costs. As we indicated, the design portion, which as you can see has been money well spent with BSC Group. We will have to get a permanent easement, and that was discovered as we got into the project. Part of the property at the Easy Mart, which is located on Shore Road and Hartford Avenue. Part of that design goes through their property. So allowing for that and possible signage will be $2,550. Throughout this project, there's associated legal fees, as you might imagine. Of course, the town wants to make sure we do everything correct. And at this point, we're estimating the legal fees will be at least $4,000. And there's, again, some construction services that are required for the town to properly manage and inspect the project. And those are estimated at $15,000. But when you consider the town cost versus what we get, $400,000, it's quite a bargain for the taxpayer. Does anyone have any comments on the budget that they want to add?
The only thing I might mention is that we have a $63,000 for Shore Road. The contingency may be used at some point in time, depending on what we find. So some of that contingency, or all of it, may actually be applied towards Shore Road as we move through the project. It's a pretty linear project. There doesn't seem to be a lot of potential for surprises, but you never know. That's why we put the contingency in there. But after the Hartford Avenue portion is done, which is probably the area that if we find any surprises, that's where it would be most likely. And we start the Shore Road piece of the project. That contingency may be used to continue our construction on Shore Road.
Good point, Frank. And you're right. The private properties on the town road of Hartford Avenue is where we are planning for more costs as opposed to a very wide right-of-way on Shore Road.
Another thing that's worthy of mention is the fact that this project is considered prevailing wage. Their prevailing wage usually applies to new construction or projects that are in excess of $400,000. So new construction usually. So this is new construction, excuse me, and so that limit is $1 million, but the Department of Labor is considering this project as an enhancement to an existing road. Therefore, they're not, even though there are no sidewalks, they are claiming that the sidewalks are enhancements to an existing road. Therefore, we have to pay prevailing wage, and those wage rates are much higher than they would be if we were free of that requirement.
Yeah, I think another thing. Oh, Bonnie, were you going to say something? Okay. I think another way of saying what Tim's going to say, said, is that these numbers are conservative. We budgeted for prevailing wage while we were hoping to hear otherwise from the Department of Labor. But so we feel very confident that these are good estimates. But again, until we go out to bid, we're considering these estimates. The feedback we've had from the DOT is that the projects that have come in that have been bid have been very favorable to towns, so we're cautiously optimistic. And as you'll see as we go to our next slide, we're hoping to go to bid soon so that we can get a construction firm that can start early in the spring. So sort of like the first out the door project, and as a result, we're hoping to get some good costs. And as I said, the bidding process, once we get our easement completed, and we get the okay from our town attorney, then we can go out to bid. We're hoping to go out to bid around Thanksgiving. And of course, then we'll follow the town processes over December and hope that we can award somebody a holiday gift of a contract. And that will give us some time then to get the related paperwork associated with that agreement completed. Of course, the legal work associated with that, so that we can go out first thing in March, or as soon as the weather breaks for us to start. It is a 16-week estimated construction project, so it will be complete by Memorial Day. So we're cautiously optimistic. Even with the pandemic, we have allowed sufficient time for this to happen. If we cross our fingers and toes, we will get this done this coming spring. Any other comments on our schedule? All right, next slide, please. So we're thanking you all at this point for listening patiently to our presentation. And as you can see, this is information on contacting the town hall, the first selectman's office, and email if you have any comments after you listen to this presentation again, which I'm sure you will, and have some questions and feedback. Our goal to show that we have completed this process well is to take any comments and collate them as part of the process for the project on meeting our goals. At this point, we are going to open the phones and open your computers to allow for anybody that has a question. Michelle is going to be managing this, and we had hoped that if there are any of the project abutters were on, we were going to give them the opportunity to speak first. We have two people that I don't recognize as abutters. And well, now I guess we're down to one person. So I guess the first person would be Colin, Michelle, followed by anything from the reporter.
Okay, Colin, you're unmuted if you have any questions for the committee.
No questions, just I think it's great work. That Shore Road area I know is very dangerous. My wife and I walked it regularly, and we see cars just flying by. So that'll be really helpful. And then to continue, the Hartford Avenue sidewalks is really great. So now if we can get some traffic calming on Portland Avenue, that'd be great. That's a real raceway. But thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
I've taken.
Thank you. Okay, next I'm going to open it up for Kate Hewitt. Kate, do you have any questions? Oh, she muted herself.
I've been following this project for a while, so I'm pretty familiar. Thank you so much.
Oh, no questions. Okay, thanks, Kate.
All right. I guess at this point, if there aren't any final comments by the project team, which I'm proud to say is Eric Olson, Frank Pappalardo, Bonnie Reemsnyder. Did I say Eric? Did I mention you, Eric, already? Jim Lampos and myself, and Tim Griswold.
Mary Jo, may I just mention that Kurt from BSC has provided us with foam boards, illustrations, which have been put into the foyer of the meeting hall for the public to look at. We thank you, Kurt, for those. Those are very much larger than what we saw here, so people want to see them. And we also might comment that in the future, we're hoping to have a bus shelter, a bus stop be near the police station on the half acre which the town owns, between Dimitri's Plumbing and the police building. This has not been fleshed out particularly, but we are very hopeful that we can provide a proper bus pull-off on that property. And the Estuary Transit District is very receptive and will hopefully provide us with a structure to be erected there. But this will be done not as part of this project, but something in the future. But it might be a very compatible with the intermodal transportation piece of it.
Good point, Tim. Same with some placemaking that we'd like to develop also for the Gateway area. That's very important, and we had initially talked about that in the actual application, so that's very important too. Anybody else? All right, well, I want to thank in particular Kurt Procherena, the BSC group. Thank you to the committee for all your hard work. We're entering the fun part. And Michelle, thank you very much for managing this process tonight. I was a little concerned about how this went, and I didn't need to be. So thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Right.
Au revoir.
Good night.